We all know Femi Oil is a
Okay. What? Okay, I've got a lot to say about these mobile ports, but where do I start? Well, for once, I can stop talking about Femi Oil and change the background at once. Now, before we start, there are a few things I need to note. Obviously, you're gonna have to mind the annoying ventilation that you're hearing in the background. That'll let you know that was obviously recorded from a room. And 2, not all the music you're going to be hearing is from the Red Ball series. Mostly it is from Fimi and Contre-Jeux, mainly because I want to spread the word about both of those games, so that they wouldn't be lost to time and so that they can be updated again. Both the developers of each of those games are still alive, and they could be contacted again. I will make videos on both those games. So far, I've only done so for Fimio, which is the content that I want to create. Basically, I got introduced to it in 2021. But either way, let's begin the video.
It's obvious that Red Ball 4 Mobile has more people playing the game than the other games in the series. I mean, other people remember playing the Flash games. That is essentially me. But unfortunately, Red Ball 4 Mobile has become the absolute titan of the Red Ball series. However, this does mean we're not going to be talking about Red Ball 4 Mobile. Ever wonder why there was a 4 in the title? Why not Red Ball 3, 2, or 1? Well, technically, that would be the case if you never played the Flash games. But what if I told you that there were actually mobile ports of them? It's a bit complicated for the kind of mobile port history.
So far, there have been 7 mobile ports. Or, well, 9 if you want to talk about the Red Ball 3 mobile ports.
But here's what happens. If you remember watching Maximum's Red Ball 3 progression video, then you know exactly what happened. But basically, around 2009 to 2011, FGenie allowed a company called Mid-Atlantic Engineering to make mobile ports of the Red Ball game series, which is exactly what we'll be talking about in this video. So let's get everything prepared then, starting with...
Released on November 19th, 2009, just a couple months after the Flash game release on June 23rd, Red Ball was finally released to mobile. This actually makes it one of the oldest Flash games to have a mobile port release, second only to Balloons. However, we basically know nothing about the initial first release of the game. All we have are a bunch of low-quality YouTube videos and this one clean screenshot from a Japanese website. Obviously, comparing this photo over to the Flash version, it does kind of make sense that it doesn't look like the Flash version. It kind of looks like it's fake and fandom, but trust me, this is real. However, judging by the amount of footage I can find, you can kind of tell that with this port, the developer was a new person when it came to mobile experiences. Like, for some instances, you'll see some objects that are noticeably not in place. The death animation also plays whenever you hit the reset button, which isn't supposed to be a thing, as if there's no other code that makes it do otherwise. Notably, this game is 100% flawed. You know what else makes it different from the Flash version? Microtransactions to pay for the full game! Yeah, this was back in the day when in-app purchase was announced in iOS 3, and it caused everyone to become completely confused when they downloaded the App Store. Basically, this is stupid. Having to pay $2 to earn the rest of the levels is still stupid by today's standards. However, despite all these flaws, I still find it to be a pretty great version of the game on mobile. Something that's more affordable on computer because, well, people were giving up their PCs to get one of these phones. And so, basically, I remember this initial version of the game to be a lot harder. Like I would always overshoot some of the obstacles, such as the moving platform level 2, causing me to not beat it. Or, well, I think that's because I wasn't good at video games back in 2015. Basically, this version of the game was good for the time, but it won't hold for long because... Red Ball Pro. How is this version any different? Released 3 days before, on November 16th instead of the 19th, this version of the game does cost $1.99 to get the app itself. However, all the levels are available for free instead of an extra purchase. So basically, Red Ball was just a light version of the full game. However, let's talk about one thing that was changed. In 2010, the game was updated when Red Ball Studio purchased the Mid-Atlantic Engineering Company. Now it was under control under that name. And so, in Update 1.2, they updated the game with better visuals, better graphics, and better controls. Gameplay-wise, the game looks way better. Objects are now placed correctly as they did in the Flash version, and to be honest, it feels like a more better version of the game. Though I gotta admit, the background doesn't really move at all. The cloud's background, to be precise, is the exact same backdrop from Red Ball 2, so basically it's kinda off. But to be honest, this is what I would call a better version of the Red Ball mobile port. Still, it does have a few flaws. For example, in level 11, the cars jerk up when they're going up the hill. And in level 12, the saw blade does not spin in a circle. It just stays still and moves to the left and right. There's no obvious 10-second wait to load up the last 5 levels, which were supposed to be King.com exclusive, so they still included them in the mobile port, which is strange. Oh, and also, level 17 adds a completely different clapping sound effect because it's the last level. To be honest, yeah, it's a really great mobile port. It manages to retain the feel of the first game from the Flash game and put it here. However, that's not the only Flash game that got to mobile ports. What's next? On July 14th, 2010, Mid-Atlantic Engineering released Red Ball 2, which is a port of Red Ball 2. Like the first game, it was a light version of the game, offering you only a limited access, and you have to pay $1.59 to get the rest of the levels. However, the last 5 bonus levels were never added. And that's basically all I have to say for this port of Red Ball 2. However, if you've been noticing a pattern, then you probably know what I'm gonna talk about next. Red Ball 2 Pro. This is obviously the exact same thing that Red Ball Pro did. Like Red Ball Pro, it was $1.99, but this time you could get all the levels for free without any extra purchases. However, unlike Red Ball 2, this version of the game did have the 5 bonus levels. Not sure why they didn't in the light version, but they did in the paid version. So let's take a look at this as it was released on July 31st, 2010. So basically, Red Ball 2 Pro is the exact same game. And since I barely mentioned Red Ball 2 because of the lack of footage that I have for that version of the game, it's a good thing I have this on my iPad first generation along with Feed Me Oil 1. Either way, the game feels incredibly great on mobile, and another great game that executes the manner of the Flash game. Although there are a lot more differences, such as the fact that stars stay accounted for after dying, which drastically changes the difficulty of the game. And I honestly understand the fact that they crammed in the 5 bonus levels to be separately playable because in the Flash version, they were only playable and you can't go to a specific level, as there was a bonus levels option. That was the only way you could unlock it. And that was the only way you could play the levels. At least they include the bonus levels in here. Otherwise, I would have only dreamt on how the bonus levels would have acted. But we're not done yet because there's still 3 or 4, technically 5, games that we still have to go through. Starting with Red Ball 2P. 2P stands for 2-player. Was released on January 5th, 2011. At this time, Red Ball 3 had taken 1 year and 3 months just to complete the game and go through a mobile release, so it was going through production hell. But at least with Red Ball 2 Player, it was still monumental. It was just the other ports, but you could race head to head with someone else to try and beat the 17 levels as fast as possible. You can either race head to head against a random person via Game Center or through someone locally via Bluetooth. FGenie even challenged players to try to beat him in the app's description. However, what makes it far above multiplayer games is that you can actually see your opponent's progress viewed in the level as a ghost and even on a different level on the top section of the screen, meaning that they truly went above and beyond for this mobile release game. While I do have it, I unfortunately do not have a second-old device, so basically this is the only footage I could find of this. Basically, you would think that we would be done here. However, the next 2 games are, well, we'll talk about them. Now, unfortunately, the remaining 2 games are the rest of the 32-bit games that we basically don't have any information of. We barely have any photos or even videos of them. So basically, it's gonna take a while before some of them are found. Thankfully, both of them are found. So let's start with Red and Blue Balls, released on March 5th, 2011. This is one of the 2 games where we seem to have more photos, but we had never found any videos of them. The only screenshots that we ever have of the original 32-bit version are these 5 from the site mobiware.org. Comparing the photos over to the other 32-bit apps, the menus seemed to somewhat match the style. The buttons were exactly the same, but the HUD does look a little bit less polished than the other games. Like, that's the reset button? That's the homepage button? That's how you read the level as just 2 and not level 2? Yeah, you can kind of tell how rushed this game is. Even more rushed than the other games. Interestingly, you can shake the device to switch balls, which is not something that would usually do. Not to mention that the last 5 bonus levels were never added. Well, it does kind of make sense. They were sort of parodying the game Civi Balls, made by Andrei Coalition, another Flash game developer who would eventually make the series Snail Bob. Basically, this version of the game had been lost for about 11 years. That was until 2023, when in 2023, I got an iPad first generation, knowing the systems required to unlock the older version of the game. Thankfully, I got all the games I needed just a couple months before Apple killed the Apple Store for that operating system in 2023. So, thankfully, I still have the apps downloaded on it to this very day. So, what can we expect of Red and Blue Balls Mobile? Well, let's find out. Well, at least the cutscenes are on the game, though I was worried of it lacking sound like a later version of the game. Thankfully, there is sound and music in this version, although there were only 6 comic pages instead of 8, the same amount that Red Ball 2 did. And the menu and level menu icons matched up exactly like the ones shown in the pictures, though when I played the game for myself, well, I honestly could have had a better experience. It feels like the gravity is about 2 times more bigger and you quickly fall to the ground when you jump. Not to mention that water sort of acts like a trampoline.
The jump height feels very untested. So untested that you can get to high platforms that would usually require long puzzles to be solved. That is very unbalanced. However, one cool thing about the game is that it is the only mobile game, other than Red Ball 4, that actually has the speedrunning trick from the Flash game to be present, and that is motor jumping. The only applications for it are in levels 5 and 12 though. As the text says, you can shake the device to switch balls, but it only sometimes works and very rarely. As you can see here, I was only able to hit it once.
And yes, walkthroughs do exist, but only as ghost recordings of people testing this game. Wow. After finishing the 15th level, you would expect it to say bonus levels coming soon, but it actually says Red and Blue Balls 2 coming soon. Yeah, they really thought they could port Red and Blue Balls 2 and 3 onto mobile. I'd only expect it to be a lot harder, but how else could they do it? Well, we'll never know. But we still have 1 or 2, technically 3, mobile games that we have left to cover. Starting with Red Ball 2 Party, released on July 12, 2011. Unfortunately, this is the game with the least amount of information we have. There are only 2 surviving photos of this app, one that is presumably the loading screen, and one that is the menu. And that's it. Those are the only 2 photos that we have of this game. People have downloaded it, and that's because I can see some reviews of this game. Unfortunately, it seemed that one review, which was pulled up when you look under the iTunes archive of the game, which I can't pull up strangely, had a review that said that the levels were exactly the same from Red Ball 1, which kind of left me a little bit scared. Was this app tricking people into thinking that it's a 2-player version of Red Ball 2, only for it to be another 2-player version of Red Ball 1, but with Jupiter-like gravity in Red and Blue Balls? Yeah, that's what I actually thought of this game, based on that review. It also said that the game was so bad that it gave him a headache. Well, I can understand why. But that was basically it. There was no other photos. Unfortunately, this was the only 32-bit app that I never downloaded it. I was about to download it back when it was still up, but the reviews caused me to ward away from it. So basically, that was it. I had downloaded all the other 32-bit apps, just not this one, unfortunately. And so it remained lost. That is until a few months ago, in early 2025, when... On Christmas Eve 2024, an unknown channel by the name of Gamey Stuff uploaded some gameplay of Red Ball 2 Party. Currently, it is the only footage of the game known worldwide. This footage was somehow recorded 9 years ago, back when it was still up in 2016, and somehow he kept the video for 9 years. Well, he kept a lot of videos around that time span, but basically some of it is a lot of strange stuff. Either way, thankfully, this game is a port of Red Ball 2 Party, but you race head-to-head with someone else, like Red Ball 2 Player. However, this is probably the game with the least amount of polish. And not by the fact that it has Jupiter physics in Red and Blue Balls, but by the fact that some of the dark textures are very unfinished. They'll flicker in and out of existence, especially level 13. Look at this! I guess it's the reason why the reviewer got a headache from this game. And it seems that there are more differences in comparison to the original Flash version. So, in my own eyes, I believe that Red Ball 2 Party is probably the least polished out of all the original 32-bit games. And I probably would have had an even stranger reaction if I did download the game back in 2016. However, we still have 1, or technically 2, games that we have to offer to us. You know what this is. Well, remember when I said that Red Ball 3 had gone through production hell? Well, finally, after 1 year and 7 months of development, Red Ball 3 finally released to mobile. It was released on May 26, 2011 for the iPhone and iPod exclusive, but there was also an HD version of the game released a few weeks earlier on May 4th, 2011 that not only supported iPhone and iPod Touch, but also iPad. At this point, App Genie was finally able to get a mobile publisher that would help release the game, and it was published by Chillingo. Yes, that Chillingo. However, they somehow said that they would only release the game to mobile. So basically only a few months after the release of the game on August 2011, Evgeny snuck away from Chilingo and released Red Ball 3 on Flash either way on September 7th, 2011. So the very first thing that starts up when we load the game is a very realistic photo. Gosh, that's beautiful. To be honest, it can feel pretty surprising that for some of you people watching this video, you'll think suddenly, oh wait, isn't it a bit similar? Well, yes, but we'll get to that later. This game feels very great to run on mobile. However, there are a lot of differences compared to the Flash version. Obviously, there are no silver stars in the game, because Chilingo didn't like high scores being the only collectible in the game. So they had to use 3 gold stars because it was casual for 3 stars in their game industry. There are some level differences compared to the later Flash release. And finally, they have a completely different OST and sound effects that you're actually listening to some of it right now. Another thing that's different is that there's a different level made exclusive for this version because it has unlockables. The first one is unlocked after beating the game. With it, you can be able to play through it again as either girly or evilly. The second ones are special abilities that you can unlock by sharing the game to 3 friends through Chilingo's social gaming platform, Crystal. But the service has unfortunately shut down in 2013, making them completely inaccessible. But judging from this video I found, I can confirm that 2 of them are an infinite jumping glitch, and a glitch that allows you to not die on anything. I can only guess that the third glitch is faster speed. As you probably guessed for some of my earlier videos, 2020 through 2022, this was my absolute favorite Red Ball game, and I really wanted to get it so badly. But now that I have access to 32-bit apps since 2022, I can play them again. However, what happened later on? Well, we've all come to this part, and now we're gonna ask ourselves the question, what happened? The Red Ball mobile series were so popular when they first launched, but then after 2011, no one seemed to talk about them. Well, that's obviously because of the success and popularity with Red Ball 4 mobile. However, what happened to the other ones? Obviously, Mid-Atlantic Engineering became defunct, so no one would be updating these games. In 2017, Apple had announced that with iOS 11 that they were going to be removing 32-bit support. And that meant that all the Red Ball games before Red Ball 4 mobile were all 32-bit. And so basically they became implayable. Someone else other than Evgeny or the then defunct Mid-Atlantic Engineering decided to update some of the apps to 64-bit. Unfortunately, these updates completely downgraded every game from the original status of the mobile games before Red Ball 4. Red Ball 2 was the very first app to receive this change, followed by Red Ball and Red and Blue Balls in 2016, and Red Ball Pro in 2018. Red Ball 3 and 3 HD were removed in 2016, and Red Ball 2 Pro and Red Ball 2 Party were then removed in 2017. This stayed this way for a couple years, until in April 2022, we don't know exactly what happened, but the closest assumption that we can make is that a license agreement that allowed anyone to make mobile ports of the Flash games or any knockoffs of the Red Ball series expired, meaning that was considered illegal. This caused Red Ball to become completely rebranded as Rouge Ball, and leading Red Ball Pro, Red Ball 2, and Red and Blue Balls to become completely removed. Rouge Ball was just a reskin of the original Red Ball, but in October 2022, Rouge Ball was an update to have even more strange and weird grotesque designs. However, despite the 32-bit removal, Red Ball 2 Player is still kept on the App Store in its original 32-bit version, and it continues to remain downloadable on older iOS devices. But I don't think that'll last forever though. However, in 2025, a miracle happened. In 2025, a person who had all the mobile ports by the name of Campbell Sonic, otherwise known on YouTube as Instructor Scarlet, posted all the IPA files on a Google folder sheets called Red Ball IPA Archives. The same person also made a playlist showcasing all the footage from all the Red Ball games. And yes, this includes my footage from 2018.
No, don't, no!
And footage recorded 4 years later in 2022.
Come on, get the star.
As I was saying, to download them, you need to have the device under iOS 10, as was the last iOS system to support 32-bit apps, and to be installed through Sideloadly, a jailbreak-free website that'll help you sideload the apps. However, if I were to recommend what device to sideload them on, I would best recommend for it to be an iPhone 4, since it runs on iOS 7, and it's also the oldest supporting system to have the App Store still functioning, and also the oldest one that Sideloadly can support. But also the fact that some of the skeuomorphic designs that were made in the apps won't technically work for the newer design introduced in iOS 7. Either way, I'll list both Sideloadly and the Red Ball IPA archives in the description of this video. Just remember to follow exactly as the tutorial says. Good luck, you're probably gonna need it. But I still see this as a great way to preserve these apps forevermore. So, I actually don't know how to conclude this video. There's a lot of stuff I can end the video on. But how do I start? Oh, I've got it. The Red Ball mobile ports were, and still are, revolutionary for the fact that they were one of the oldest Flash games to be converted to mobile. And they're still revolutionary, as they feel exactly the same as the Flash games back when they were old. Oh yeah, and about Red Ball 3. Apparently some of you might be wondering why you think it's a little bit similar. Well, basically, in 2016, a strange company called HeroCraft somehow must have gotten the assets of the game and just basically ported it into their version, and it quickly became popular. It only had some differences here and there, such as in level 17, but in 2022, because of the popularity, all the levels were changed drastically, and basically this is just a rip-off of a mobile release.
It's even featured on Yoho Games' official website.
Either way, these mobile ports are really great. Now, as of the time of making this video, I currently don't have access to the first edition of Red Ball and Red Ball 2 Party, so I will be using Sideloadly to load them on, but the proper iPad that I use to have them isn't really in hold of me right now. I have to wait a few days until I actually have it, and that's my iPad mini first generation because I am not in the same house as it is. So basically I'm gonna have to wait, but I will let you know on the updates. Thank you so much for watching this video. Now, if you don't mind, I gotta get back to doing your regular Fimi on contre-jour stuff. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.